You're listening to the Small Business Accelerator podcast, accelerating success, one founder at a time.
With your hosts, Roger Bryant and Sarah Wilson.
We support small business owners, the little guys. We're here to help you win in today's landscape.
Join us each week as we reveal powerful strategies for small business owners that save you time and money.
Because we believe every small business owner should have access to Fortune 500 style strategies without breaking the bank.
Subscribe now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to accelerate your small business success. Ever feel like your business is on this roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Up and down between crazy busy and, oh no, is it going to be slow?
Yeah.
You're definitely not alone, and actually a lot of our listeners wrote in about that. It's the dreaded feast or famine cycle. And today, we're doing a deep dive into your sources to try to break free. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. A lot of times the advice out there is kind of like generic, like just get better at marketing. But what does that even mean, right? Especially when you're like in it.
Exactly. You're in the thick of it. But thankfully, your sources get into not just what causes this whole crazy cycle, but actually what to do about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like having a toolbox full of solutions instead of one of those like old gas station maps, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Kind of leads you in the wrong direction. Totally. And the first step, your sources point out, is realizing that this isn't just some external force. It's not just the economy or the seasons.
Right.
It's also how we react, how businesses react to it.
It's like you can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf.
That's a good one, yeah.
And one of the biggest wipeouts businesses have as they're surfing is forgetting about marketing when things are good.
Oh, yeah.
You're so busy serving clients that you forget to, plant the seeds for future growth.
It's so easy to forget to do that when things are going really well. You're riding high, projects are coming in, and then bam. It's like, oh no, what do we do now?
Yeah, there was this Forbes article you shared, actually, and they had a good analogy. They said it's like forgetting to refill your car with gas because you're too busy, enjoying the scenery.
Oh, I like that. Eventually you're going to hit E.
Yeah, that is a good analogy. But speaking of things that hit hard, your research also found that this cycle takes a toll on us as people, on business owners.
Oh, absolutely.
Emotionally, right.
It's rough. It's that uncertainty.
Yeah, the anxiety, definitely.
And I mean, this isn't just in our heads, right? Like the stress hormone cortisol is actually released during these times.
Wow.
And if you have too much cortisol for too long, you burn out, you get fatigued, you can't focus.
So this isn't just bad for business. It's really impacting our health.
Right. It's like you're on this emotional roller coaster.
No wonder a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way.
Well, and one of the studies that you sent actually said that entrepreneurs, especially those who were in this feast or famine cycle, had way higher anxiety, more depression. It's not just about the money. It's about our well-being.
Definitely. And on top of that emotional stress, there's the financial part of this because you have unpredictable income.
Yeah.
Like feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
So 1 minute you're flush and the next.
Yeah.
You're worried about payroll.
And that's what's so frustrating, right? Because the cycle just keeps feeding itself.
Yeah.
That same Forbes article that you sent said that during those good times, those feast times, people overspend because they think it'll last forever.
Oh, yeah.
And then the famine hits and there's nothing.
There's no cushion. It's like you said, you're building a house on a shaky foundation. Might last a little while, but any little tremor.
Right. And it all comes crashing down.
And it's not just the business owner that feels that either.
Oh, it's everyone, right? Employees, customers, even your suppliers.
So then how do we break free from this cycle? Thankfully, your sources have tools. But before we jump into those solutions, let's take a closer look at the true cost of staying on this roller coaster, because it goes beyond just some sleepless nights.
I think one of the biggest things this cycle does is hurt customer trust.
Yeah.
I mean, you're totally killing it 1 month, then the next month you're dropping the ball.
Right.
Because maybe you don't have the staff or you're just completely overwhelmed.
It's like they say you're only as good as your last performance, right?
Exactly. And now, especially with like online reviews, social media,
Oh, yeah.
one bad experience can blow up so fast.
Yeah, no business wants that. Definitely.
And it's not just the customers, it's your employees too. Think about it.
Oh, yeah. I can only imagine the stress of, like, do I have a job next month?
Right. Is there even going to be enough work? It's tough.
Yeah.
It just kills morale, productivity tanks, people quit.
Yeah.
There was one study you shared, I think is about workplace stress, and it found that companies with this whole feast or famine thing going on,
Yeah.
their employees were just way more burned out. Like cynical about the work even.
Yeah, and if your team is constantly worried about their jobs, I mean, how are you supposed to get them excited about the future, about big projects?
Right. It's like trying to build something in a hurricane. you can't even think straight, let alone lay a good foundation.
And without that foundation, you can't grow. You
Hmm.
can't make those big moves.
Exactly. You're just surviving, always putting out fires instead of making your own path.
Yeah.
There's this consultant you mentioned. He had a good way of putting it. He said, trying to run a business in this feast or famine cycle is like trying to steer a ship in a storm, but your rudder's broken.
Okay, I write that.
You might stay afloat, but you're not going anywhere.
So then how do we fix that rudder? How do we take control? Because breaking free from this, that's got to be the goal, right?
I mean, it has to be if you want any chance of making it. And the good news is your sources, they actually have a ton of ways to do it.
Okay, good.
And it really boils down to one thing, making your business more predictable, more stable.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, a lot of your sources talked about this idea of standardization.
Okay.
So basically, having systems in place, processes for everything.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, I don't know. From the first time a client signs up to how you manage projects. Everything.
So you're not reinventing the wheel every single time.
Right. Not only does that save you time, a ton of energy too, but it also makes things way more consistent. For your clients, your team, everybody wins.
It's like having that well-oiled machine you were talking about.
Yeah.
So even when things get crazy, you can still keep the quality up, right?
Totally. There's a good example, I think it was in that book, about lean businesses.
Yeah.
They talked about this marketing agency, and they standardized their whole client intake. So they made templates for proposals, for contracts, like even the project briefs.
So no more starting from scratch.
Exactly. It saved them a ton of time, obviously. But the best part, they were able to use that extra time to focus on their clients, on bringing in new business, like the important stuff.
Which kind of brings us to customer retention,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Because if you've got a solid customer base, it's got to be easier to handle those ups and downs.
Totally. And your sources, they all said the same thing, that building those relationships, it's not a one-time thing, it's got to be constant.
Okay. It's like they say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Right. Instead of always looking for new clients, you're taking care of the ones you already have, and that can lead to so much more. Repeat business, referrals, good testimonials.
So how do we turn those one-time clients into those, like, raving fans?
Your sources said it's got to be a multi-pronged approach. Like you have to deliver amazing service all the time, go above and beyond to fix problems, show them you really care about their business.
It's not just what you do, it's how you do it, right?
Totally. One of those customer experience gurus you mentioned, he said it perfectly. He said, these days, it's not enough to meet expectations. You got to exceed them.
And that goes beyond just the end result, right?
Yeah.
It's about the whole experience.
Exactly. So personalized communication, solving problems before they even arise, maybe even a handwritten thank you note when the project's done.
Oh, I like that.
Little things go a long way.
Yeah, building those real connections.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
can't just be transactional, right?
Right.
And something else your sources talked about, loyalty programs, referral bonuses, all that.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes people feel appreciated, and they tell their friends.
Right. One study even found that those referrals, they're more likely to become repeat customers themselves.
So it was like this awesome cycle.
Yeah.
You know, happy customers lead to more happy customers.
Exactly. And speaking of growth, your sources all agreed that to break this feast or famine thing, we got to change how we think about marketing.
Okay, so instead of those like mad dashes when things are slow,
Yeah.
we need to be more consistent, more strategic.
Exactly. Less reacting, more long-term thinking, like building a brand, becoming a thought leader.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in real life?
So instead of just telling everyone about what you do, you're creating content, really valuable stuff that positions you as the expert in your field.
Okay.
Could be blog posts, social media, videos, even speaking at events.
So you become that go-to person.
Exactly. You're always there, providing value, building trust. It takes more work up front, for sure.
Yeah.
But in the long run, you're building a pipeline.
It's like you're planting a garden instead of just throwing seeds everywhere.
Exactly. You're creating an environment where things can actually grow.
And to grow, you got to measure, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Can't improve what you don't measure. That's what they say.
Yeah. Right. And a big theme in your sources was data-driven decisions, like using those key performance indicators, those KPIs.
Yeah.
So basically, you got to figure out which numbers really matter for your business.
Find the right ones and track them.
Right,
Sure.
exactly. And that data, that's what helps you make smart choices about everything. Marketing budget, where you put your resources.
So it all comes back to control, to having a plan.
Exactly. Instead of just reacting, you're using the numbers to spot trends, see what needs work, and actually get ahead of the curve.
And speaking of examples, we got to talk about those case studies you sent. They're like real-world proof that this stuff works.
Right. That one about the Mayo Clinic was amazing. They used lean principles to actually improve patient care.
I know, right? And it wasn't about cutting corners. It was about streamlining, making things better.
Exactly. It just shows that this stuff, it works in any industry. It's not just about factories or tech companies. It's about creating value no matter what you do.
So for our listeners who are like ready to get off this crazy roller coaster, what's the one thing they should focus on first?
I'd say focus on the foundation. Get those systems in place, build those strong customer relationships, and get serious about consistent marketing.
Solid advice. So instead of riding the waves, build a business that can weather any storm.
Exactly.
This has been a great deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Small Business Accelerator podcast.
We really hope today's strategies help you grow your business without breaking the bank.
Don't forget to check the show notes for links to resources we've handpicked for small business success.
If you found value in today's episode, it would make our day if you subscribed to the podcast and left us a review.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And stay tuned for our next episode. Next time, we'll reveal yet another game-changing strategy that's revolutionizing how small businesses on a shoestring budget take on giant corporations and accelerate their success.
Until then, keep accelerating your success.
This is Sarah Wilson.
And Roger Bryant, signing off.